On this final segment of Otto Sitterly Shop Talk, Otto begins by taking us through the evolution of the Supermodified as he knows it.
Well, cars are a lot faster than what they used to be with all this downforce, but it's, you know, when I first got into a Supermodified, you know, there wasn't much downforce and it was more mechanical grip, and you'd sort of get the car into the turn, and the front end would push, and you'd wait till the push was gone, and then when the push was all gone, you would just throttle it up and go. And then, you know, with a Muldoon car, the way Mike always had explained it to me, there was hardly any downforce, with really good mechanical grip with his torsion bars and his shocks. And, you know, that car, you would sort of drive it straight into the turn, and you would diamond the track. You know, you try to get it to rotate in the middle, and then same deal, when that thing turned, you just applied the throttle one time and away you went. The cars worked really well. But when Joe Hawksby came out with that first car, and I watched him, and he's like one of my best friends. But when I watched that kid go around that track with that car, and he's in the third groove just driving around guys, you know, I sort of sat there as a driver and I said, wow, there's something to this. You know, these cars, they don't drive themselves, especially when you have, everybody has one in the field. So, and there's a lot of good drivers. So, you know, you got to find out what works best for you. And then when you find somebody else's weakness and you've got a handle on what you have, then you can tend to make it work.
With the ever-increasing rise in aerodynamic stability in the Supermodified division, the question usually comes up, is it the most important aspect of the race car in today's day and age?
It's not more important, but they're almost, maybe not quite on par. You still need the mechanical grip, but you know, it's totally, you wouldn't even get it around the track without a tail on it. Or if you took the front wing off, I don't know if you could get it around the turn. It's a 48-inch wing in the very front of the car, and it's the cleanest air. It's in front of everything, so nothing's blocking it. So, you know, the way I like to look at it is somewhat of a teeter-totter. That tail in the back, just say it could put maybe 700 pounds of downforce at top speed. Well, you need something to balance it in the front. So I would say that nose wing at top speed could probably do a couple 100 pounds, maybe between 200 and 300 pounds of downforce. So if you all of a sudden put that right on the back of another car and the air is all dirty, it's like following a tractor trailer down the road. And you can feel your car wobble all over the place, or if you ever did it on a motorcycle, it about wants to spit you off in the ditch. That nose wing's the same way. When you got your car balanced and you're in clear track and the thing's just on a rail, if all of a sudden I pull up behind Dave Danzer's car and I know I'm faster, and I've got that wing right up under his, there's no way my car is going to turn the same as when it's in clean air. There's just no way. So you have to, as a driver, you have to know where he's going to go and where to put your car so you can make a pass and, you know, and still have it turn.
And as the Supermodified division continues to evolve, Sitterly and Joe Hawksby went back to the drawing board in creating a new Hawk chassis, trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Really, the car's wheelbase, engine location, rear suspension is absolutely identical. All the major things to do with the car are the same. Front suspension, entirely different. The old cars are push rod with rockers, and basically the front end of this new car is the same as the back. It's got a transfer bar in the front with stand-up coils in the nose, and it's got a sway bar that's all internal. There's like transfer bars in the front. There's a short sway bar that goes in between them, and that's adjustable, and we've got various sizes to put in it. And then if you were to ever look at this car straight on, the complete roll cage of the car is actually 3 inches leaning to the left. So if you were to take the base of the car, it's identical to the old car, but the top of the roll cage is actually 3 inches further to the left. It's leaned over quite a bit, and then the back of the car is swept over to the left too. And that's all to just try to get clean air to those tail wings.
Sitterly spent much of the early season developing the race car, not debuting it until the midway portion of the 2012 season. But Otto says there's still a lot of work left to do on the new Hawk.
Basically, every time we've ever driven the car, it's got a massive push. The car's got, but a push that's strange that we can't really put our thumb on, but yet it's got unreal speed. I mean, Mike Litke said the same thing. You know, I explained to him what the car was doing before he ever got in, and he came in and he's like, yeah, it feels like it has a wing on it. You can go into 3 so hard, it doesn't wiggle, it doesn't do anything, it just it just picks up that push a little bit harder. And it's not a push where it slides and it's going to hit the wall, but it's pretty tight from the beginning of the turn all the way to coming off. And even on the gas it pushes. But you know, if we can get the car, this car has some changes from what we did last year. We made some front end changes. You know, we made a couple changes in the back of the car just to try to get the car to rotate more. And there's give and take with anything. As soon as you get that thing to turn, it's going to seem like it doesn't have the awesome rear grip that it has. So we've got to find that balance. And you know, if we can find that balance without losing too much, with the speed that it shows, and I know it's not right. You know, I think that this car right here I think it's possible for this to be a 15-second car with non-winged.
It's nothing new for Sitterly and Hawksby to combine efforts on the design of a Supermodified, and it's certainly nothing new for Sitterly to take his own race cars in a slightly different direction.
You know, but there's nothing really special. Joey's like a good friend, and he's smarter than he might seem because, you know, there's a lot of conversations over the year or years, and he pays attention. And things that I might probably over time that I do, and I may be even loose-lipped with once in a while, he doesn't miss a trick. So I mean, you know, whatever it may be, there's nothing really that special about our cars versus what you could just go right to him and buy. You know, we do build our own bodies and build our own wings, and you know, I've got my own sway bar combination that I do. You know, but the spring rates really are basically what everybody else runs. Just probably little things here and there, and maybe some setup things, but there again, back to Nicotra's opinion, I'd like to think that maybe I can drive it decent too.
With 3 Nicotra racing machines fully prepared in Sitterly's shop and a 4th in the works, what are Otto's plans for all of the cars this coming racing season?
When John Nicotra is involved, the plan changes 50 times in a night. So, but seriously, what we plan on doing is this new car, we're going to run the opener with the wing. We're still working on some different things there. We're, you know, trying to make some changes to be a little bit more competitive with the wing. We've got to find some maneuverability with our wing package. We can go fast, we just can't get the car to pass other cars. So you got to put it where you have to go. So we're working on that deal, and then right after the wing show, probably the week before, we're going to test the non-wing car, and we'll be testing with a wing. And then that next week, we're going to probably bring the new car non-winged, and we'll bring my car, my older car, non-winged, and we'll run them both the night before the opener, the non-wing opener. And you know, basically, we're going to make a decision. And like I said, you know, there's a lot of good cars, a lot of competition there. But right now, I can pretty much tell you what this car over here will run. I know how it'll go, especially opening night, the first couple weeks. I know that the car will be good.
With Sitterly's plans to run the newer style Hawk chassis in the Shea Concrete Steel Palace ISMA Super Series, Otto is primed and ready to chase that first Wing Super victory.
It's very exciting to me. If it wasn't for Nicotra and the situation, he loves Oswego so much. You know, at this point, I wouldn't want to leave, but I would really like to, it's almost like, it's not that it's better or a move up, but it's just different. And it's something that I haven't been successful, and there's no doubt in my mind that I could be. But to be able to only go and do it once, twice, 3 times in a season, we didn't do it at all last year. It's very hard in these cars. You know, it's hard to have the best of both worlds. You know, you have people thinking that you have an item that nobody else at the Speedway has. So they must be pretty good, is my point, non-winged. So it's sort of hard to get them that good with a wing, you know, since we're mostly concentrating on non-wing.
With as much success as the Hawk chassis has had at Oswego Speedway in non-wing competition, some feel as though the car may have a flaw with wing racing. Otto tends to disagree.
I would say not enough work done to one, because anything can be made to go if you have the knowledge and you have the time to be able to sort it out. But there are some issues, especially with the older style Hawk car, with the push rod front end. And you know, we don't steer the rear of the cars at all. And it's something that, for my feel, I can drive a car loose, it's not a problem. Our cars hardly will turn at all when you put a wing on them. It's just non-stop slide of the front end, and then what I tend to do when I get in a race situation is I overdrive it, and I get the car sideways to be able to get it to turn. and then I burned the right rear off, and I can't even hardly make a feature, and the tire's shot.
And with essentially 2 seasons in one coming up at the Speedway this year, what is Otto most looking forward to in 2013?
Well, I mean, just getting back to the track, and we've got a good group of guys that show up to the track. I don't see a lot of them in the off season, so seeing all the guys and the camaraderie, all that means a lot at this point. I don't go into the season now, I'm not looking and saying, okay, we're going to win 6 races and we're going to win the championship. Quite honestly, I did this a few years ago, and it might sound like a bunch of malarkey. I hope we can win a race. And I hope that we can go and run each week and be able to bring it home, because it's just so much work and it's a lot of money to rack these things up. But if we can be fortunate enough to get a win, and maybe a couple, then that's really all we're looking to do. Anybody that, when they win their last race, you don't know that that's going to be your last. It's not like you can predict the future and say, oh, I'm going to win 5 more. So I mean, you got to cherish them. Each and every one of them's got to be special.
With 24 feature wins, 3 Oswego Classics, and 5 track championships, does Otto think he's got enough left in the tank to go after magic number 7 in the championship category?
I'm very healthy. I feel like I could go a long time. Sometimes it really weighs on you mentally more than physically, even working on them. It's just a lot of responsibility. I have a friend that does a lot of the parts for me. So I mean, there's a lot of different areas people take the pressure off, because because they're so special, the cars, it's really a lot of work to do one. And when you multiply it times 3, or we've got a 4th one on the burner, it really is, this is easy a full-time job, which, it's all volunteer. I do have some pretty loyal guys, and I drive myself crazy because a lot of times they come here, unless there's a specific task. I've got a guy that can weld. He's welded as long as I am old, so he can do that. And then I have a guy that is pretty good with organization and cleaning, polishing everything. So obviously, he takes care of that, but really a hardcore mechanic, the guy that I trust to put the engine in and hook all the lines up and rebuild the rear end, is pretty much all me. Unfortunately, all the bodies, all the wings, I do everything. And everybody, a lot of times they'll stand around and drink beer and their support, but and I mean, I'm not saying that to be facetious, it's just the truth. It's the way it is.
And of all the years Otto has now raced at Oswego Speedway, what moment stands out as being most memorable?
One silly one that to me, there's a bunch of them. A lot of them are special for different reasons. But we had a bad crash 2011. And I know how hard it was, and I don't know why it didn't break my feet or rip them off or something. It crashed. The worst crash I've had, worse than the classic wreck that year, and probably should have been worse than what it was. I'm thankful it wasn't. And we came back with that car. The next week it was a twin. When I built this car, I took every piece of the old one and copied it, everything. So the panels are interchangeable, just everything, you could swap them back and forth. And the first time out came from our handicap spot and one going away. And it was a really hard thing for me. If it wasn't for especially my wife and John Nicotra, I probably wouldn't have come back. I don't feel as though it was a fair deal, that wreck. I just don't think I was race fair.
And with that, Otto references his oftentimes wheel-to-wheel relationship with Extreme Chassis lead driver Ray Graham. And oftentimes with a chassis rivalry comes a driver rivalry. So does Sitterly consider Graham a direct rival?
No more than anybody else. And if he's in front of me and I have to drive over my head to get him, I won't do it. But if he's in front of me and I've got a car under me and I know I should, and rightfully so, if my car and I'm capable of getting it past him, I'm not going to let off the gas for anybody.
And it's Sitterly's on-the-gas mentality and work ethic that has helped propel him to be a 5-time Oswego champion. But what driver coming through the ranks right now does he feel could be the next rising star in the Supermodified division?
There's a lot of really good kids drivers, but probably this kid for multiple reasons. I like him. He's smart, he listens, he's done well already. Brian Sobis. Yeah, I just from what I've seen the couple years that he's run, he doesn't tear stuff up, and he can pass. He knows how to go fast. Kid needs, he needs a break because he's got to get a ride or something. But yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to put him in one of these cars.
And after 2+ segments of Otto Sitterly's shop talk, just one question remains: how does Otto Sitterly want to be remembered at Oswego Speedway?
Probably no more than what everybody already knows. That I was competent with the tools, and that I could do my own thing. I didn't need to necessarily follow and say, Joe Hawksby, give me a setup. I can sort of do my own thing. And I want it to be known that every one of these cars is identical. If a guy comes in and we want to peel the 7 off of the 6, or 7 off of my car and put it on the 6, or switch them around, I have no qualms about getting in any of them. So I mean, there's something to be said for that. Every one of these cars comes like I'm about ready to get in it. I guess that's about it. It's fun winning. It's fun winning, I can tell you that.